let's get started with our editing process. What you're going to do is you're going to come up to the top here and you're going to select Develop. Develop brings you to a whole new category, all right? So you can get rid of this again. And then sometimes, if you're doing it on a smaller screen like I am right now, you can hit, full screen and it'll bring up the entire screen for you. But now we're over in a whole new section. Now, there is a few things I want to talk about on either side of these panels, and bear with me, this is going to be a beast because there's a lot of information here in order to make you guys great editors. Right here, remember how we were talking about on the entry, you can do the presets? Lightroom offers you several presets. Some are good, some are bad, but for the most part, I suggest creating your own. What you can do is you hit this little down arrow, and then all of a sudden it's going to start giving you a bunch of these options. Remember that preview box I was telling you about? Right here in this top left corner is your preview box. It's going to show you what the photo will look like whenever you start changing around these previews, okay? So these are all black and whites, so that's what it's trying to do. These are the antiques, and see what I mean? Like some of these are kind of played out, not so great anymore. These are different effects and stuff, but I don't suggest messing around with these because they don't really ever get updated. They're the same ones they've had for 10 years. Snapshots are like if you wanted a specific moment, you could take a snapshot of it, go in here, and you can go back to those specific sections. Now, that's kind of the same thing as your history. Every time you do a change to your photo, like let's say, for example, I decide to change the white balance, you're going to notice that this changes over here. Now I've changed two things in my history. If I don't like that, instead of hitting Command Z or Control Z for PC, you can just go right back to this. So let's say I make like 10 changes. I'm just doing all these changes randomly, and I start to get a little kooky and change all of my stuff around, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I'm not a fan of what I just did. You can go all the way back to import if I wanted to, or you can go to a specific spot. But here's the note. Here's the important thing to do. If you're just checking what it looks like, make sure you do not hit anything if you go back in your history. Okay, so I'll repeat again, do not change anything until you're sure that that is what you want to do. Because what you're doing, if you change anything after this point, it will erase everything you've done thereafter. So if I want to go back to this point curve system and I go ahead and change my exposure now, you notice how this just changed? Go back, make sure you're good with where you are, and then start changing things. Now up here, this is where all of the magic happens. The first little box right here is a crop tool. You could use this to crop anything down to any size really. It's a really, really powerful tool. If you want to keep your aspect ratio, just make sure you hold down Shift while you're dragging from the corner, and then you'll notice it doesn't change the ratio. If I let go of that, it's going to make it so I can freely move it around in any kind of way I want. I can make it a square if I want to, but I'm not going to do that. Now, the other cool thing about this is it has presets that you can do. Again, not a huge deal. Let's say you just want to make your own really quick one. Again, you can hold down Shift and you can lock in that aspect ratio, or you can just go ahead and drag your own frame in there, okay? So I'm not going to do that, but the other thing you can do is this guy, and this is a powerful, powerful, powerful tool. See how it's kind of crooked? Now what I can do with this tool is I just come over here, click on that, and then you find one side, and then you find the other side, and you just drag a straight line across, and then there you have it. It's a straight photo now, okay? Hit enter, and it automatically corrects it. That's a really, really powerful tool for those of you who are like me and just don't know how to stand up straight. Now you can hit constrain image and that's going to keep it locked into that aspect ratio, but not a huge deal again. The next section right here, like they call it a spot removal tool. Same thing in Photoshop. If you were to use like the lasso or something like that and you want to change something that's like a blemish or something like that, that's what I use this for, is like blemishes typically. So for example, let me go to another photo. Now she's got very clear skin, so I'm going to be hunting for blemishes. you see this navigator again, like you see your preview. You can actually do this where you can zoom in by just bringing your clicker up there and see right there, she's got a nice little itty bitty blemish, okay? You wouldn't really notice that. I'm in 1:1. I mean, if you look right here, see the square? That's how much of the photo I'm looking at compared to the entire thing. I'll just go back out again and you'll see like that's really not noticeable. But that's what this tool is for, okay? So you go here, and you can either have one of two options. You can heal it, or you can clone it, which I'll just show you the difference real fast. So there's clone, which means I clicked on that spot, and then what it's going to do is it's going to search for a very similar area, and it's going to go right there and pull from there. Now see how that's gone, essentially? Back and gone. These options over here are simply for size. The feather means how much of the edge you want it to go. Do you either want it to be a stark circle, or do you want it to be a softer edge? You know, sometimes you want to mess around with feathering a little bit to make sure it's good. Opacity means how see-through is it. So if I click right there, I can raise and lower the opacity. At 1 opacity, that means it's pretty much see-through. At 100 opacity, that's just covering it up completely with you're just covering it up entirely. Now, on the flip side, there's heal, which heal is almost going to act like a makeup brush, okay? So it's not going to try to eliminate anything, but it will try to get the best possible version of it, which is what I usually prefer heal over clone for blemishes, because it's not going to change the coloration too much. So for blemishes, I would really suggest that. For clone tool is more or less if you're trying to copy something over, like if you want to copy a tree, you know, like from one side of the woods to another side, then use the clone tool. If you're looking to get rid of blemishes, use the heal tool. Moving on, this is red eye. Not today's day and age, you don't really need to use this too much. Red eye, if you don't already know, happens as the flash is reflecting off of all the blood vessels in the eye. That's what gives you red eye. Now this tool right here is handy if you have that situation, but if you're using pretty good equipment, you're never going to really have that situation come up. But let's say I am really close right here, and all of a sudden she gets red eye. What I can do is I can zoom in really tight on her eye, and I can click right there. It wants you to find the eye like that. So you click on the center and move it along, and then what's going to happen is it's going to make the eyeball essentially black, because it's just reversing the effects. So it's pretty much only supposed to be for a pupil. So if there is no red eye and you try to change a red eye, it's just going to change the entire retina to black. But we don't want to do that. It's not necessary for the most part. It works, but it doesn't work perfectly. That's the red eye tool. Okay, so this is a gradient tool. This is pretty handy for doing things like make a certain section darker or lighter, or if you're trying to blur out a certain section. So what you do is you grab a section from the top or left, right, bottom, doesn't matter, and then you pull down. And then what that does is it does a gradient, which a gradient means a gradual fade or a gradual change. And it's going to be where it's really heavy right here and really soft down here. So I can change, like just for example, so you can see the difference. I'm going to change the color balance of everything so you can see. See how right up here it's really concentrated to that section, and right down here it's not, there's almost no change. That's because there's a gradient pull. What you would use this for is for like exposing the sky, something like that, trying to make, you know, a certain section look better, not wanting to affect something else drastically. That's what that's for. This one right here is your brush, or your mask, sorry. You can do different things like you can soften the skin if you wanted to, but again, it's basically so you can select one section to make the changes to, okay? And it's going to read it pretty well, but that's it. Like, and see how I just made everything else around here. So like, let's say I want everything to be softened except for her shirt. It's going to do that. But the problem with this is it's going to do this one section. Now, the brush is where it gets handy, because you can actually take your brush and go over entire sections with it, which actually, I'm going to use this right here. This is my brush tool specifically. This is more for picking sections. This tool right here, the brush tool, this is for getting in there and getting specific things like your teeth whitening, for example. So teeth whitening, I'm going to get in there and I'm just going to brush her teeth for her. Oh my goodness, her teeth are white. Now, it whitens teeth by just honestly removing saturation and adding brightness. So that's all there is to it. If you want to increase and decrease the size, you can either do it on the sliders or you can hit the bracket buttons. And you hit the left bracket and that makes it smaller. The right bracket makes it larger. And you see right here, oh my goodness, they are freaks of nature with those white teeth. So, you can do all kinds of stuff like that. They have dodging and burning, which dodging and burning, if you don't know, burning is darkening and dodging is lightening. So the way you can remember that is thinking about it like fire. Fire on wood, when you burn wood, it darkens it. That's the only way I ever really remember it. But anyways, so I'm going to, you dodge on the highlights, and then you burn on the shadows. Okay, that's it. That's all you're doing. So I think you guys are ready for learning about actually editing the photos. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to my history, and I'm going to go all the way back here to the import. I'm going to go back to fit, get rid of this, and here we go. Let's actually edit some photos.